what I feel was one of the best things to happen for physical media-based gaming machines has been entirely phased out. It's not difficult to see why though. The eventual decline of print-based gaming media, plus the ease and simplicity of downloading, dragged the demo disc, usually dispersed as a freebie of the console's officially licensed magazines, down with it, an unfortunate piece of collateral damage lost to the tides of time. But hold on, I hear you say. What is this disc of demo you speak of, old man? Some of you young'uns out there are likely scratching your heads, baffled by the very concept that a monthly paper publication could be sold as part of a package with a playable piece of plastic. My generation of gamers were eating good at the table, but of course I'd say that, drowning in my own nostalgia for a time that's long since faded into nothing but a subjective memory. Though I'm absolutely certain if you ask any gamer over 30 about demo discs, they'll regale you with similar tales as this one. Though probably the best remembered example from my generation, it wasn't a new concept when the official PlayStation magazine launched with a disc of playable teasers of upcoming titles for its flagship grey box. Free demos and occasionally full games had been a magazine staple for at least a decade previous. Well, I say the demos were the freebie, but in my eyes it felt like the main event, while the magazine they were taped to was the bonus extra. I remember as a kid getting copies of Commodore format, cassette tapes stuck to the cover artwork in the bottom left corner, containing a handful of C64 demos and some full games, believe it or not. Other magazines had floppy disks, such as Amiga format, aimed at the other Commodore machine. And many magazines orientated towards the PC, which tended to throw in shareware or trials of applications alongside game demos. In the mid-1990s, when it became cheaper to produce CDs in large quantities, the PC-focused mags began using this shiny circular media to allow for even more content. At that time, home console systems still operated on bespoke, expensive cartridge systems, which could not be so cheaply produced en masse. Though not the first CD-based console to launch, the phenomenal success of the Sony PlayStation introduced the prospect of the promo media to the console gaming market, and with it, opening the door for the concept of the demo disc to thrive in the console space for the very first time. Leading with a fantastic example, the PS1 itself was bundled with the infamous Demo 1, a multi-game trial disc containing a 90s trance aesthetic, a handful of playable games, and a few videos of other upcoming titles. The icing on the cake was the absolutely insane real-time dinosaur presentation, a T-Rex stomping about with a free camera to move around it, a statement of intent by Sony to show off the capabilities of their machine not in business or trade shows, but to you, in your own home. Previous to this, demos had been nothing more than hands-on prototypes at bland, clinical trade events. In the days before the far more gamer-oriented E3 and the like, they were more of a business showcase rather than to allow the general public to play. My first memory of a large-scale public gaming event in the UK was Gamesmaster Live, which I unfortunately did not attend, but looked incredibly exciting for my 7-year-old self. According to the ads, Dominic fucking Diamond was there. Patrick Moore's cyborg head. Massive angular virtual reality headsets. Probably some sweaty bloke in a Zool outfit. Did you go to this, or any other 90s gaming events like it? I'd really love to hear your stories in the comments. Later consoles to adopt the CD and DVD format would follow. The official PS2 magazine continued on the path paved by its predecessor. Sega Dreamcast magazine would come with demo discs for their ill-fated swan song. The Xbox Monthly rag would publish discs for their super chunky black box. Nintendo was the outlier. They didn't join in with their publication, which as far as I'm aware never received a demo disc in its entire run. Nintendo's use of smaller, proprietary discs may have been a factor, perhaps costing more to produce. So what happened to the mighty demos? Between the early 1980s and mid-2000s they were everywhere, and suddenly they're gone, like the PS1 dinosaur, extinct. The demise of the demo discs were fueled by a couple of factors. I've already mentioned the decline in sales of physical magazines. it was a fact that articles were always at least a month out of date by the time the issues hit shelves. As internet access and broadband became more widespread and affordable, people didn't need to wait for their care package of info to drop at the newsagent. This shift in the mid-2000s marked the beginning of the slow decline for physical publications, though the official magazines would somehow last at least another decade, although without their key selling point. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, the rise of internet gaming services on console, led by the introduction and success of Xbox Live, meant that demos for upcoming titles became easily downloadable. That's not to say the demo disc was dead yet. Surprisingly, the Xbox 360 and PS3 official magazines still did come bundled with demo disc for a significant while, a fact I only learned while researching for this video. But it was inevitable that demos hosted online were the way forward, removing costs associated with disc production and magazine distribution. Plus you never had to buy a £5 magazine just for a brief go at Sonic 06. Xbox Live Arcade's games mandated that every title as part of the range had a trial version, which was essentially a demo version in all but name, allowing punters to try the start of any full game until a point where you'd hit a literal paywall. I really enjoyed having the freedom to try all these smaller titles. A lot of full-price retail games would get demos too, one of which stood out to me because of the effort put into the short teaser. The demo for Fear, for example, took elements and areas from several levels and stitched them together into one bespoke map, especially for the demo. To this day I can't recall any other game that did this. When I got the full game, it surprised me that my expectations on what was coming around the next corner were completely thrown out the window, keeping me on my toes and the full game experience fresh. I'd argue more demos should have done this. If you know of any other examples, please let me know in the comments. Demos today do still exist, digitally via the online storefronts, though I feel a lot of what made them special has been lost. Sony's ecosystem does offer free demos, but has locked what it calls full game trials behind their premium subscription paywall. These offer complete access to full games, usually big open worlds and key AAA titles, for several hours before locking you out. Monetising demos essentially, which is something I both disagree with and find hard to understand. Additionally, the Game Pass model has killed much of the novelty of trying a demo version, seeing as you can play the whole game as part of your service, totally negating any need for a trial at all. These are likely the reason why developers don't feel necessary to craft a demo today. They've become completely redundant. Perhaps this is the end for the traditional demo then. The last demo I recall downloading was for the Resident Evil 4 remake a few years ago.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
I still occasionally browse the PlayStation Store's selection of trials, yet I found a lot of them are inexplicably for the cheap shovelware blowing the marketplace. At the end of the day, I'm glad I lived through an era heavily defined by try before you buy gaming at home. Floppy disks, cassette tapes, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays. I raise my glass to those many years of delicious demos and tantalising trials, many of which influenced my purchases down the road. Without them, I doubt my era of gaming would have been quite the same. Anyway, that's the history lesson over with. Now, if you're not bored of my droning nostalgia-tinned voice yet, I'd like to share a more personal anecdote, a tale of my favourite demo experience. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin. My most memorable demo disc ever was the one that came with official PlayStation 2 magazine, issue 17. This disc was crowned with what I saw at the time as truly the most ambitious, most realistic, insanely cinematic game I'd ever seen in all my gaming days. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Not that I remember much about the magazine itself, except it had a perfect 10 review of MGS2 and came with 2 alternate covers, one for franchise veteran Solid Snake and one for the controversial newbie Raiden. I had the Snake one, obviously. I became obsessed with Metal Gear Solid 2 months earlier, when I bought another gaming magazine, the unofficial PSM2. Rather than playable demos, their free DVDs contain the latest trailers, at least at the time of going to print, and gameplay videos to complement the magazine coverage. You have to realise this is around 5 years before the debut of YouTube, and high quality internet video wasn't common at the time. With PSM2 Issue 8, a nearly 10-minute trailer for Metal Gear Solid 2 from E3 2001 sent my hype into the stratosphere. I remember watching it over and over, almost unable to comprehend how a game could look this good so soon after the blockiness afforded by the previous gen's hardware. The graphical leap felt to me like a generation ahead, or at least the kind of game you'd see at the end of a console's life cycle, not just 2 years into it. The deep intrigue surrounding the plot aboard this massive rain-soaked tanker also drew me in, the subtitled Japanese audio and rapid edits lending a further air of mystery. I was in. At this time I hadn't even played Metal Gear Solid 1, which I quickly rectified, so now there was a greater understanding of what the absolute heckins Ocelot and his mental arm were on about. Needless to say, I anticipated the release of MGS2 incredibly eagerly, so much so I couldn't wait for the official PS2 mag to push out a demo for it. I knew there would likely be one, seeing as a demo had already been released, bundled exclusively as a bonus with Konami's mech beat-em-up Zone of the Enders. Not to be confused with Zone of the EastEnders, which focused more on the dismal lives of pub dwellers of London's fictional Walford.
Get out of my pub!
My wish came true in OPSM issue 17. It's worth quickly noting that the menu system for PS2 discs was rather generic and dull compared to the more imaginative PS1 offerings. Despite that, the disc was rammed with a wide range of varied playable titles, such as the terrible licensed Robot Wars cash grab, the futuristic speed of Wipeout Fusion, psychedelic musical shooter Rez, and the ad-libbing fun of Parappa the Rapper 2. Finally, I highlighted Metal Gear and let that stunning, real-time, rain-soaked cinematic bridge-to-boat infiltration soak into my soul. This demo was quite substantial, taking place from the beginning of the game and encompassing roughly 2/3 of the initial tanker mission. It even let players go beyond the Olga boss fight, which is where the older demo disc bundled with Zone of the Enders closed off. I'm not exaggerating when I say I played this demo a lot, to the point I can say I've never played any other demo before it or since anywhere near as much. But why did I play it repeatedly? There was just so much to do. An insane attention to tiny, ultimately pointless but intricate details that no other game would have even considered including. Stay in the rain a long time and end up with a cold. Aim at a stubborn guard's bollocks and he'll drop his dog tags in fear. Have a quick wank in a locker containing a sexy pin-up poster and get moaned at.
What do you think you're doing, Snake?
If you knocked over a bucket of ice at the onboard bar, the ice would slowly fucking melt in real time. I sound crazy talking about it like that today, but you've got to think about the time this was released. Late 2001 in Japan and the US, very early 2002 for us in Europe. A game this detailed, this well crafted, with so many interactive elements, optimised and running at a mostly smooth 60 frames a second. Retro Hutch founder Joe and I used to play this demo with a stopwatch, trying to beat each other in a speedrun. Among other ways, we turned this short experience into a game in and of itself. So that's my look back at the demo disc, a gateway drug for the discovery of new gaming experiences, a great way to try before you buy that I really miss. What are your favourite memories of these fabulous freebies? Did you have a particular favourite? Did a playable trial sway your opinion for a game you were on the fence about? Please share your memories with me in the comments below. A big thank you goes out to the gaming preservation community for their efforts in backing up and archiving demo discs as the historical time capsules they truly are. Sure, they may just have been throwaway promotional items at the time, but their relevance to our shared hobby holds a far greater significance to many of us, and should be remembered and cherished as a key part of the history of gaming as a whole. To quote the legendary Solid Snake, "Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing." Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to crack one off in a locker. Just don't tell Otacon, yeah?